All right. Well, I appreciate you jumping on this podcast. This is pretty much called Independent Freedom Capital Podcast, and I just talk about entrepreneurship, financial literacy, and just exposing people to innovative stuff that they can do,
Great.
not just the traditional way, or if they decide to do traditional way, they can do it their own way. So I think that's
Sure.
pretty cool. But I appreciate you coming on. I mean, Daniel, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Sure. So I am I'm 35. Um, I've been married for a long time. Got three kids. I graduated from University of Michigan Law School when I was 26. Although I never really practiced law that much, I went right into finance and business, and got my undergrad degree from Oakland University. Um, I wouldn't say I did really well in high school. I moved around a lot of different schools. I even got um, expelled from a private school. And so a lot of my path was getting out of college and, I'm sorry, getting out of high school and trying to find my way doing different odd things. And then when I was 20, I read an article about a guy who from Mexico. He snuck over here and ended up working his way to citizenship with different jobs. Ended up going to Harvard Law School, and I was like, man, if he can do that, then it's not too late for me. And so I went to community college, get good grades. I went to Oakland University, got good grades. I got into Michigan Law School, and then that afforded me a lot of opportunities to, you know, have people take a look at me and give me different jobs. And I always approach my career with a mindset of, how can I get really good at this on my own, as opposed to relying on any particular job or opportunity to teach me, so that when I get into the opportunity, that I can make the most of it. And God has blessed me with some success, and it's been an interesting ride. I can tell you what I do currently, right? I'm a partner at Austin Lake Technologies, which is a tech-focused private equity firm. We buy private technology companies. That means they're not on the stock market. You can't buy their shares publicly trading. You can't do any of that. They're just privately held businesses that we go and acquire, and then we try to improve them over 3, 4, 5 years, and then sell them and make money. So we manage a little over $200 million in assets, and we're always looking for more companies and raising more money. So
So I was just curious, how long has that company been established?
yeah, well, we started about a year ago with the same team that we worked together inside of a larger fund that was about 1.5 billion, and we'd worked together previously in that fund for 6 years, and then or around 5 point something, and we got to a point where we said, you know what, I think we're going to be able to have more control over our destiny and the way we want to do things, and sort of our future growth if we own it, as opposed to just own a small piece of it, right? And so we were able to strike out and start our own thing. And a lot of the initial assets that we managed were sort of on behalf of that other fund, that we were able to kind of kickstart our group with some revenue that way.
That's pretty awesome. That's pretty
Yeah.
awesome. So like you said, you've been doing it for a year. So like, how did you get into it? Like,
Yeah. Well, I've been Austin Lake, my current firm that I own a large piece of, and I'm a partner at, has only been around for a year, but we've been working together inside another fund as a team
yeah,
for close to six. And before that, I was at other groups, so I've probably been doing this for about 10 years.
okay,
And I got into it. So when I was in undergrad, I always enjoyed in high school, like a big thing I was a part of was playing sports, and I enjoyed like the camaraderie and the competitiveness, and I wanted to find a career that sort of felt more like a game and a competition, and at the same time could be lucrative. And in a capitalist society like the United States, moving capital and controlling large amounts of capital is one of the ways where you can make a lot of money, right?
It's
And there's
true.
also sort of a very challenging aspect to that. So, I just read a lot of books, and look, I knew I needed to understand accounting and finance classes, but I also knew that a lot of the stuff I could go on the internet and watch videos, I could read books. It was so fun for me. I'd get my schoolwork done as fast as I could, and I want to, read more and understand. And then I took online courses. There's some really good courses that teach you how to do some of the entry level jobs that you have to do in this business. And I just built up my skill set. And then the big break for me was really getting into Michigan Law School, because even though I wasn't going to be a lawyer, having that sort of pedigree was very helpful in getting opportunities and interviews at even smaller firms, but just getting that opportunity. And then for when I got out of law school, I met someone who owned a large wealth management group, and he said, I want to take a portion of my clients' money and invest it into stocks, which is totally different. It's public equity. That's not what I do now. And I said, yeah, that sounds like a lot of fun. Like we'll come up with trading strategies, and we did well for a year, and then we lost money for a year. I kind of came to the conclusion. It was like the first job I had out of school. I was like, you know, yeah, public companies, you get a lot of publicly available information, but a lot of it's very generic, and everybody's looking at the same thing. And you buy something, and I'm not in talks with the management team. I can't go and sit down with them. I don't know what they're doing. It's sort of like this ambiguous guess, and there's all these computers trading. And I was just like, I don't feel like I wake up and I really know what I'm doing here. I mean, so much so that I can beat all these other people. And so I said, I feel much more comfortable in the world of private companies, where I can talk to the CEO, and I can get to know their business, and I can get a bunch of information. And when things happen, I know why they happen, because I'm right there, right? And so I got a job at a small. I put my resume out to a bunch of local private equity groups and investment banks, and I got a call back. I did well in the interview, and I got a entry level job at a healthcare private equity firm in Southfield. And I did that for a year, and then I used that job to get me an interview at what I perceived to be a better firm, and I went there, and I kept just going up the ladder, and that's kind of how the industry works. You're always trying to angle with your experience to get the next spot. So yeah,
That's pretty awesome. That's
yeah.
pretty awesome. Like so, like it's not like you plan on getting to private equity though.
No, no, I didn't know what. I mean, I knew about it, but like I think you can relate to this. I mean, we all know about the public stock market. It's something we all understand. We grow up saying, okay, I know what stocks are. Okay, you can, and anybody can do it. You can open up $100 account and start buying stocks, right? So that was my initial exposure to investing. To me, the idea that you could go and buy a private company, you could just call them up and say, hey, you're $100 million revenue company. I want to buy you. It wasn't even in my radar, right? It
Yeah.
didn't seem possible. And so I think what caused me to get into that were, there's just not a lot of public equity roles. So the moment that we didn't have success in the one that I was working with here, was just sort of a fluke that this guy wanted to do that and was willing to pay me and back me to do this. Once that wasn't successful, to me, it was like, okay, well, private equity seems a lot more intuitive. Like it seems like it's a lot more, to me, I have an easier time getting to know a private company and dealing with the management and getting to ask whatever questions I want. Whereas if I call up a public company and I want to know about them, they're going to say, you got to read whatever we put out, and that's all we can give to you, right? So it just sort of happened, and I got involved in it, and I, was good at it, and you know, this led to that, right?
No, that makes sense. So like, what made you like? Because like when you got into private equity, some people might leave, and
Hmm.
do something else. But what made you like, what, stay consistent in that career field?
Money.
You have money.
Yeah, I mean, to be direct, yeah, it's you get paid. No, there's nobody else that would pay me anywhere near what I get paid to do this, and so to do something else. I mean, that may not be true at this point, but when I started out, I just honestly, I was attracted to, working at funds, investment funds, whether they be private or public, because they paid young guys a lot of money, young guys and women as well. But that was a way that you could go out and make a lot of money. I mean, you start out at just out of school at one of these investment banks, private equity, public equity, hedge funds, whatever it is. I mean, you're making six figures right out the gate, and then every year you get these big you can get these big bonuses. And to me, I was like, that's worth that. If I'm gonna get up every day and have to go make a living, that seems as good as anything. So
That makes sense
I
though. Yeah.
yeah, and so yeah, and then you just get good at it, right? And it's like, okay, well, I'm making good money, this is fun, I enjoy it, let's do it you know
I see. So like, I know you talked about like you were like you went to school and like you were learning, but then you also were like learning like your own stuff on the side, like getting
yeah.
increasing your skills. Like, what made you do that? And did you feel like that was like real beneficial for you?
Yeah, what made me do it was when I got into, like I said, when I got into Oakland University, or OCC. These are local colleges around here that, I mean, I wouldn't say, they're overly difficult to get into. It's not like getting into a more elite school. I was just like, how do I, I've always thought, okay, I've never had my identity in my job. To me, it was like, I got to go to work just like people have for 6,000 years, and I got to make a living. And so I might as well pick something that I can make some money at, so to me, it was like, where can you make all the money? I saw these people on Wall Street. You heard of Wall Street, right? Like, these guys are making the cash. Like, how do I get to be able to do that? And then the conventional wisdom was, oh, you got to go to one of these elite schools to do that. Like, you can't, you're not going to do that at Open University. And I was thinking, well, okay, but why not? So I said, I researched it, and on the internet, there's different chat rooms and groups, and there's a website called Wall Street Oasis.
Okay.
It's sort of like a community for people that want to be in the industry, and it's gotten huge. I mean, there's hundreds of thousands of people all over the world that go on it, and you can learn a lot just from people and like that are on there and that had careers, or that there's people that are like 40 years old even that have anonymously are on there giving tips, and people ask each other questions. And so I just said, well, you know what? I'm going to learn this because there's information everywhere nowadays.
That's true.
I'm going to learn this, and then I'm going to try to get a job. And I applied it a bunch while I was in school at OU, and nobody gave me a chance. And so then I said, I gotta level up my brand. And so that's where I was like, I'm going to apply. I couldn't apply to business school, like an MBA, because I just wanted the brand. I wanted a higher level brand on my education, and because they wanted you to have work experience. And so I said, well, I'll apply to law school. So I figured, if I go to Michigan Law School, that's a good pedigree, and so I'll re up and try then. So that was sort of my strategy, and it worked.
That's pretty
So
awesome. That is.
yeah.
So like, I'm just curious, like what do you think someone should learn in order to get into this field?
Well, I would say a few things right off the bat. I think if you can be accounting is sort of the building blocks of what we do at a very small level, because it's the language of business. You can't you Half of a business is obviously the financial information, the accounting information. The other half is obviously, qualitative, understanding, what they're doing and their competitiveness and whatnot in the industry and their customers. But yeah, you got to understand accounting and the language of accounting. You got to be able to pick up a financial statement and read it and understand income statement, balance sheet, cash flow statement. You got to understand these things. So definitely accounting and then finance is really um, the various uh, uh, instruments or securities that people use to buy things. So think of debt, equity,
Mm.
right? Understand how debt and equity work together, and so accounting and finance are really important. But also understanding how to research on the internet, uh, the industry or the outlook of a particular business. Just really good at internet research, and then also, most importantly, I would say, is financial modeling. And what I mean when I say that is how can you take the financials of a business, understand it, and then forecast that out in a financial model? And they're very complicated, and they're built in Excel, and it takes junior guys days to build them. they're kind of fun. It's kind of like building a computer program in Excel to predict things. And there's all kinds of internet classes that'll teach you how to do this. I'm sure on YouTube they have them for free, but I paid, I think, I don't know, $1,800, $2,000 to go learn. Went to Chicago every weekend for a month and went through these classes. And you can also do them online now. Training the Street is one. Breaking into Wall Street is another. Wall Street Training is another. But yeah, I'm sure nowadays you can just find YouTube videos that teach you how to do it. But if you don't understand accounting and finance going into those classes, then you're not going to understand how to execute those classes. So I would say those are key things. And just a curious mind. And I know that sounds cheesy, but I mean, like, in the sense of, you've got to care about business and economics, and like be very, when you look at, okay, if I was going to buy, Lululemon, right? The athleisure brand, I really care about learning about the business and the management team and its customers. And, because that's going to make you dig in real deep and be creative and think about things, as opposed to, I found that a lot of kids who got into it, who, were just trying to go through the motions and just, I mean, I get it. You're there for the money, but if it's not causing you to be creative and have fun with it, you're not going to last, because the hours are crazy.
Okay, that's pretty cool. Now, I was also curious, like, so like, how did you like start it with your partners, the company
hmm
that you started with, like, within the last year?
Well, look, we all were employees at a bigger company, and so we were sitting around working together all day, right? And we were in a department, a division in that company that focused on technology investments, right?
Okay.
And it got to the point where we had some success with some of the deals that we did, and we looked around and said, yeah, maybe we ought to, maybe it's best for our future if we form our own deal. And so we approached our bosses, essentially, and said, this is what we want to do, and these are the reasons why. And they understood, and they actually said, well, can you continue to manage the companies that you manage as an outside firm, with us? And so we signed a contract to do that, and that was sort of the money that seeded us to start.
Oh wow. Okay. All right. So like,
I wouldn't recommend it out the gate. It's something you want to do, 10, 15 years into your career. And,
okay.
no, I mean, yeah, this is a bit, and unless your rich uncle gives you $100 million to go buy companies with, then I would say, no, the best thing is to go to even a small firm or a large firm, doesn't matter, small fund, large fund. It's go to one of those, learn the ropes, you know what I mean? Get some money under your belt. And then when you get older, the time will sort of become obvious, when, like any business, if you start out as a doctor, maybe you're working at a hospital for like 10, 15 years, and you're thinking, well, mate, I got a bunch of clients. I know what I'm doing. Like, I'm gonna set up my own shop, as opposed to right out of med school. That might be, might not be the best thing to do.
Oh, that makes sense. So just curious, like, so like, what did you do and your partners do to like secure funding? Because I know that might have been difficult.
Yeah, well, what you learn quickly in this business is that money is a commodity. Money is not the hard part. The hard part is having a deal or a company that's willing to sell to you at a good price. That's the valuable thing.
Okay.
Okay, like, if, like, Mello, if you went out tomorrow and you were able to find a company and get to know them, and get them to trust you, and say, and negotiate a good price for you to buy that company with, and that, was, turned out to be sort of a perceived good price, then getting the money is not the problem. I mean, it might be because you don't know who to call and whatnot, but there's trillions of dollars out there in the world that
Okay.
are looking like to be deployed. And so, you just have to have that network. So I guess the key is over time you build that network to where you say, wait a minute, I just got to put together good deals, and the money will come.
Okay.
You
That
make phone
makes.
calls. You make phone calls. That's what you do. You make phone calls. You
Yeah.
say, hey, this is the deal I'm putting together. Well, it's obviously work, and there's a lot of, back and forth and diligence and whatnot, but it's what we do.
That's pretty awesome. So like, what are certain things that you look at when you guys are buying companies?
Yeah, well, obviously we have sort of a narrow industry focus. We don't buy, automotive, manufacturing companies or anything like that. I mean, we don't. We don't buy t-shirt companies. We buy technology companies that have a nexus to technology, which you could argue is most companies nowadays, right?
Yes.
So everybody's got an app and whatnot. So I think for us, the key that I think I would communicate is we're looking for companies that do some things better than everybody else, or as good, if not better than everybody else in their industry. But equally as important, there are several things that they do poorly. And the reason why is because it's like real estate. If you walk into a neighborhood and the house is perfect and there's nothing to improve, then how are you gonna make any money, right?
That's true.
You can't, because the guy's going to sell it to you for top dollar, and you just got to hope that the general market goes up, you know. But if you walk into a really good neighborhood, so okay, the industry is really good, it's maybe it's really fast growing, and you find a house in that neighborhood where you're like, man, this house got really good layout, but man, the kitchen's dated, and they got this ugly color on the walls, and you're thinking, wow, this is perfect because I can buy this house cheaper, come in, paint the walls, change the kitchen, and then I can make some money. It's the same thing.
Okay. So like, do you guys have like a time frame of when you guys are trying to sell it? Like,
Yeah, I mean, because that's when we really make most of our money is when we sell it, right? I mean, we get some fees along the way, which are healthy, but I mean, how you make the real wealth is when you sell it, right? So generally speaking, people in our industry are looking to sell between 3 and 5 years. We've sold companies as early as 2.5,
okay,
and there's companies right now that we're holding in year like 6 or 7. So, but generally that 3 to 5 year timeline is kind of an industry standard.
okay, cool. And then I was just kind of curious, like, what are some of the toughest roadblocks that you guys had when it came to like starting this?
Yeah, well, we still experience them every day, right? So we're only a year old on our own, and I think some of the most difficult roadblocks are when you're part of a larger company, you're just focusing on your job every day, as opposed to now it's like, okay, we got to focus on HR, we got to focus on paying the bills, like literally paying the bills. We got to focus on every single detail about things you wouldn't even think about running a business because we're wearing a lot of hats, right?
Yeah.
That's tough. I think also, you've got to, if we don't go out, I mean, we have some deals right now that we've already closed and that we're working on, and those things pay the bills. But in 3, 4, 5 years, they're not going to be around anymore because we're going to sell them, we're going to make money, and that's great. But you don't have the security of you're constantly both raising money and looking for good opportunities to buy. To whereas when we were inside the larger fund, it was only looking for good opportunities to buy because the fund already had a lot of money. They had other people that worried about that, and it's like I was laser focused on, okay, how do I find good companies to buy and run and sell, right? So that can spread you a little bit thin. And obviously, I have relationships and a network, but anytime you step out on your own and you leave the cover of that bigger company, people are always like, are you guys for real? Are you going to be different now that you're on your own because you guys are kind of smaller now? And so, those things. And hiring people, I know we had to convince a couple new hires that we had that like, hey, like I know it's scary because we're small and new, but take a chance on us. And so, I mean, those types of things I think are difficult.
So that's like no experiences for you.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I mean, I've always been a part of smaller, except for this last fund that I was at. But before that, the first 5 years of my career, it was always really small time shops to where you were acutely aware of the fact that, okay, if there's only 7, 5, 10 people here, so if we don't, it's not like a big company where oh, it's always going to be around. I collect my check. It was like we got to do well. So I felt really like I had to do well and contribute well to so that we would stay successful. Although not as much as the senior guys when I was young, I still had that feeling. But when and then I got to a big, as I kept going up the food chain, I got to a bigger fund, and you still have that, but it's in a different way. Like the more senior you get, no matter where you are, the more money they're paying you, the more they expect out of you. So now it's more like, well, yeah, I mean, I got some runway and I got the paycheck, but if I don't produce, I'm not going to be around here for very long because I'm too expensive to not be good, right? So it's similar to sports, right? If you're not if you got a big contract, you better score. You better put up
That's
numbers,
true.
and if you don't,
Yep.
next time around, you're going to get released. You might get released if you don't. In the NFL, if nothing's very few is guaranteed. So same thing. And so then that was okay, okay. But then when I broke out on my own, it was like, all right, but at that point, I had more money in the bank, so it was like, okay, I got some runway. It's like I felt a little health. It was a little different than when I was younger, when I didn't have very much money, and then but now I got kids, and so it's I just I'm a devoted Christian, and so to me it's like, hey, I trust God, and I just take care of what I can take care of today. I break every day into its smallest part and just focus on that. I heard Kobe Bryant said something that really inspired me when he got his Achilles injury.
Hmm.
Um, and he was like, how are you going to come back? It's going to take a year and a half. And he said, like, every single day I broke down to its smallest component part. Like, today I'm doing this rehab exercise. And that's the only thing I'm focusing on, because if you focus on the whole journey, you can get overwhelmed. So for me, it's like, okay, what's my next call? What's my next thing I got to do? And I'm going to try to, do well at it and glorify God all throughout it. And if you wake up and you bring your head up and you execute all those little points, then usually they string together, and with a little bit of luck and blessing, you get some success.
That's pretty awesome. Um, so like, would there is there any suggestions you would give to someone like trying to like start off in a similar place?
Well, it depends on where they were, right? Like if they're in school, I would say if they're an undergrad, I would say do really well and study the things that I said. But you really you need to try to get. It's like the parallel with sports is so much. It's like if you're at a division, 3 or 4 school, like it's real hard to get drafted. Okay, but if you can do well at that division 3 or 4 school and then transfer to a D1 school, now you can get the interviews. So you should really see it as like, even if I always tell people, even if you got to go to school longer, if you focus on, hey, how can I set myself up at this school to get to the next better school, whether it's a graduate degree or whatever, that's worth a lot of money, because the interviews and the job opportunities you can get from that school, that leveling up, at least in my field, are significant. Um, and if you're out of school and you want to get back in, I mean, going to get your MBA is always another cool thing you can do at any age to reset and get these opportunities again. You can be 30 years old and go back and get your MBA, and then apply, and it makes sense to do that. But then listen, I would even say the good old fashioned, if you get good at this and you understand the way the industry works, there's nothing stopping you from making a relationship with a CEO who owns a company or a founder, and being able to convince him, like, hey, let me buy your company. And he might look at you like, where are you getting this money from? And then you got to go try to raise it from different groups. I mean, I suppose you could do that, right? So yeah, I mean that's a longer conversation, but I think it definitely starts in school and trying to level that up. And look, at a lot of schools don't teach you these courses. I mean, you can learn accounting and finance, but they don't teach you how to do private equity and buy and sell and analyze businesses in that way. So take advantage of the internet and books and get really good at it, and then you're going to have then a lot of these things that I'm talking about are going to come together, and you're going to make sense.
I like what you said about like with like schools like not necessarily teaching you because like there was a book I was reading, Principles by Ray Dalio.
Yeah, yeah, I love it.
Yeah, great book. And then he was talking like even though like he had this Harvard education and all that, like he studied the market like by
Hmm.
himself, and by with his intense studying he came to like his own personal revelations and understanding of certain things in that market. So
That's
yeah,
exactly right.
yeah. And then I heard that was like self education can like bring you a fortune though.
That's right. No, I mean, in any business to where the potential is limitless. You could say that with some sales jobs. You could say that as anything entrepreneurial. You could say that in Wall Street. You could say it in sports, music, whatever. No class is gonna, in one class is gonna teach you anything in school. You're gonna have to develop an independent craft where you are out there getting information from every source. I mean, there's no reason you can't call, like you're doing this on the podcast. I mean, you can call other people like me. You can gather information from a bunch of perspectives and just, it happens little by little over time. I mean, if somebody would have told me when I first started out at Oakland Community College that I would be in this position, I'd be like, what? I mean, I was trying hard, but like I didn't think it would happen. So it's been cool.
Okay. So, do you have any like 5 to 10 year goals for the business?
Yeah, I mean, 10 years is a long time to think about. But I would say 5 years, really what I'm thinking about is, well, two things. Number one, I got to be focused on the types of businesses that we want to buy right now. And so that takes up a lot of my time.
Mm-hmm.
We're usually involved with between two and four ideas or at a time. And those ideas, as we learn more about them, could turn into sort of building an ecosystem of companies that occupy that, industry,
Mm-hmm.
and then calling them and learning them and talking to experts and finding out the lay of the land. And then we kind of start talking to them. Okay, maybe this one's the most willing seller at a particular price that makes sense. And so, you develop these things over time, and different ideas are at different levels of maturity. And so we always got about two to four of those going on at one time. But I would say, as far as it's unique to building our business, I would say, really training a lot of our team to leverage myself. So it's not me, leading the way, and then all these young guys just kind of, pecking away on their keyboards and helping me out. It's like, how can I recreate myself in these guys so that, I can better leverage them, because, I think that's how, obviously we can be more successful. And
Okay, that's pretty awesome. That's pretty heavy though. That's like some things that I think a lot of people think about. Like, okay, now it's like with training and stuff. Now,
hmm
just curious, like, okay, like, how is it difficult when it comes to the hiring process? Like, or like, what do you guys look for when you guys are hiring or trying to recruit talent?
yeah, well, I'd say, depends on the role, obviously, but entry level wise, or younger experience wise, we're gonna look for, number one, someone who has had a year or two experience doing something directly related or tangentially related. And what I mean by that is, we just hired someone a year ago who's, one of our best hires ever, who was working at an accounting firm.
Mm-hmm.
And he had no experience buying and selling companies. And um, we just thought he was really smart, and we wanted to, give him a chance. And he felt trainable, and we were right. We've done that before and been wrong. So to me, what we typically do is, we give them a test to test their accounting and finance knowledge and financial modeling skills.
Okay.
And it's usually pretty ambiguous. What we like to do is, and maybe if some future recruit listens to this, and I'm kind of giving away the answers to the test here, but what we like to do is sort of give you an open-ended question that you're sitting there thinking, well, how should I approach this, and how detailed should I be, and manage your time. For instance, we'll say, go find a healthcare software company and tell me how much we should pay for it. And then usually they're like, well, what do you mean? Like, how long do I have? And what should I do? We got to give me more information than that. It's so open ended. And, well, do whatever you think is best. And it's interesting to see how long they take, what they come up with, what decisions they make, because we're trying to see how independently can you solve problems in this industry, and I think also a huge thing for us is personality fit. I mean, we're a small firm, so you got to like each other, right? You
Mm-hmm.
gotta you gotta kind of click, because if you don't, then you're working with someone every day that you're in the trenches with, that I don't know, that maybe you guys don't relate. Now that's unique to a small firm. At large firms, they're a lot more like rigid. Like, okay, we go to these 50 schools, and then we interview these kids, and we choose five, and it's how you interview, and but we try to be a little bit more creative.
Okay. I appreciate you taking your time and sharing the wisdom and knowledge. Appreciate
No,
it.
it's fun. Yeah, anytime.
Okay, for sure. Well, look forward to maybe having you again in the future.
Yeah, absolutely, anytime. You take care. Have a good night.
All right, you too.